Good morning. Hello, everyone.
First of all, once again, for the vegan teetotaler, explain not only the Santa Teresa product, but also the category, because I think it's important to know that rum has a variety of tiers, and it's important to understand the brand within those tiers. So just give us a little background, both on Santa Teresa Rum, but also its footprint.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to share with you the inspiring story of this brand. Santa Teresa 1796 is the most super premium rum brand in the world. It's an important player in the super premium rum category. As you know, the rum category has, as Steve was mentioning, a lot of segments from value to standard premium. Super premium rum is still an underdeveloped category, and we are aiming to grow on there. We are a pretty important brand in Venezuela, but actually our bet is to grow internationally, so that's why we're here.
Tell us a little bit about the legacy in Venezuela, because it is literally a centuries-old rum, and what has been its brand reputation and its role in Venezuela?
Well, I am trying to make brief this story because we're talking about 228 years of history. Santa Teresa, Hacienda Santa Teresa was founded in 1796, 228 years ago, on October 15, by El Conde Tovar y Blanco, who was a prominent landowner at that time. He envisioned the Hacienda Santa Teresa as an important agricultural center in the region due to its weather conditions, warm days, cool nights, fertile soils, and that were ideal for sugarcane, cocoa, coffee harvesting. And it was like that. The hacienda flourished rapidly, but that wealth was disrupted by the Venezuelan independence war, so we're talking about 200 years or more. And the Familia Rivas, who owned the land at that time, the General Rivas was actively involved in the war, so he became a target for the Spanish army, and he and his family were tragically killed in an attack. But miraculously, the youngest daughter of the family, who was called Panchita Rivas, she survived the attack because she was kidnapped by a soldier. And luckily, her former slave, Juana, saw her and recognized her, and she offered to the soldier that kidnapped her 7 pieces of gold to recover her. And the soldier didn't know who the girl was, so he accepted the offer, and Juana hid Panchita until she reached her adolescence, and then they returned to the lands to recover the lands for her family. And at that time, then in 1824, she met Gustav Julius Vollmer, who was a German businessman, and he was looking for opportunities to grow the business also in Venezuela. They met, they fell in love, and that was the first generation of the family 200 years ago.
Okay. Let's, and I want to zip forward to where we are now, and particularly the campaign that you launched, and then we're gonna tell the story behind it.
Okay.
America, it's time to speak rum. The Santa Teresa 1796 rum, made from single-estate sugarcane that is showered with time and attention, using our unique Solera process, transforming it into triple-aged perfection, awarded globally. And doing the same for people. Paving the way for ex-gang members to chase a better life. So raise your glasses, America, Because Santa Teresa is raising the bar. Santa Teresa 1796. Great rum, greater purpose.
Before we get into the incident that occurred in 2003 and also how it changed the company, let's talk about what is the core demographic for your product, especially in the US?
Yes, in the US, we're aiming to target the multicultural audience, super premium spirits consumers. Actually, we have, because of the affinity, we have like an Hispanic, core target, because we want them to become the bridge to the other cultures. So basically, we are aiming to target the multicultural American with the bridge of the Hispanic population.
And these
the
are
US.
some of this sort of shows you very quickly. I know it's an involved process, but these are some of the key product differentiators. Is the process itself of creating the rum.
Yeah. Well, actually, Santa Teresa, just to start with that, Santa Teresa is the oldest rum distillery in Venezuela, I was mentioning. But also, we have a unique product. This rum, the super premium rum, goes through a triple aging. These are the three ages, the three stages of the aging. First is a traditional aging, then the solera cask aging, and then the oak, the limousine oak as aging. So we are like these three stages of aging give the product a really balanced and smooth profile. That it has given us the most gold medals around the world. We are now the most awarded super premium rum in the world, with more than 50 gold medals across competition around the globe.
So let's shoot back to 2003. Something very dramatic happened at the company, where its future literally was threatened by crime in Venezuela. Just very quickly, just tell us the incident that sparked this, and then immediately the ways in which the company reacted to it.
To give you a little context, in Venezuela in the early 2000s, it was plagued by violence, poverty, and a really inflammatory rhetoric that acts like fuel to the fire. And in El Consejo, which is the town where the hacienda is located, was no different than that. There was really a fight between gangs to control the territory, drug trafficking, guns trafficking, prostitution, and all the criminal activities you can think of. And at that time, just to give you a chill statistics, the homicides rate was 174 per 100,000 inhabitants, just compared with Iraq in war, or in Mexico with all the drug cartel situation. And at that time, at the hacienda, two members of a gang get into the hacienda to steal some guns to the security guard. One of them is caught, and he was handed over to the police. And the head of the security team saw a suspicious situation. He realized that boy at a time was going to be executed. So he immediately called Alberto, who is the CEO of the company, and he said, "Boss, we have a situation here. The boy is going to be executed. So tell me, what do we do? Give me red light or green light." And Alberto said, no, definitely a red light. Please bring the boy. So they have this gentleman conversation, and Alberto his reaction was to offer him two options. The first one is to pay, to work with no payment for 3 months to make up for what he did, or be hand over to the police. And the boy say, okay, I gotta think that. And in a week, he came to the hacienda again, but the surprise is that he came with 22 members of the gang. And he said, okay, we're here, we're ready to change. So that's how Project Alcatraz was born.
So just for the first few years of Project Alcatraz, because it actually became a program where you would go into gang neighborhoods and literally recruit within the gang neighborhoods. As Alberto, your CEO, told to me, very often at the, at the threat of violence and death. I mean, that you actually had people within the company who were going into these neighborhoods and they didn't know if they were going to come out alive or not, and how well their message would be received. Tell us about how quickly this ramped up into what is now called what was called the Alcatraz Project.
Yeah, actually, during the first few years, Alberto and a good part of the company focused on having all the resources to have a robust methodology, because we need to be responsible with the company, with the community, and of course with the gang members. We started receiving calls all over the country for gang members or familiars of these gang members that wanted to join the project. It was a time, to give you a funny detail, that the board of Santa Teresa told Alberto, okay, this is a business, this is not a non-profit organization, so we need to start separating things. And that's why Santa Teresa Foundation was created, to give birth to the Project Alcatraz. And to be honest, for us, we didn't think it was the right time to incorporate that into our communication, mainly because of two things. One, there is no secret that there is a relation between violence and alcohol, so we were afraid of a potential backlash. And the other thing is that we kind of feel a chain that people would think that we are doing this because we want to sell more rum. And the thing is that it's the other way around. We need to sell rum to keep funding the project. So it was until 2013, 10 years after the project was launched, that we decided to incorporate it in our communication in Venezuela with the launch of the campaign. We play rugby, we make rum. Of course, people in Venezuela know that we make rum, but we started to say, but also we play rugby. And people, why are you saying you play rugby? It's because rugby was the transformational tool that we used to rehabilitate gang members. So rugby became the bridge between our brand and the purpose.
Okay, so now let's bring us into that process, because it's a fascinating and unique process where you started with the cause, then and in fact decided to separate the cause from the brand for all those reasons that you mentioned. But in 2013, when you're starting to integrate it back in, bring us inside those discussions and those decisions. What key decisions did you make about bringing it into the brand? As you mentioned, rugby is the bridge, is one of the bridges, thematic bridges. But just structurally, how did you have the foundation that is still separate from the company, but then you were starting to bring it and weave the message in. So tell us about how that took shape.
Well, actually, we believe in the authenticity of our message. We are sure that we need to make this story visible to the world, because it's really important. So, of course, there was a lot of discussion because of what I mentioned before. We didn't want people to think that we were doing this because of a marketing ploy or something. But we needed to be true to ourselves. If you go to La Hacienda Santa Teresa, you're going to see these guys playing rugby in the field. I mean, it's a real story. So we need to make sure that in the right timing, with the right angle, we could tell this to the world. So that's what we decided in 2013. And for the global expansion, it was like a more gradual process, because as long as the narrative is so compelling, the story is true, but we understand that it's kind of hard to digest what a rum company has to do with rehabilitating gang members, and that's why it took us a long time to finally do it globally.
Well, then there was a lot of testing and learning. So bring us through that process early on. When you're trying to integrate a cause like this, you're trying to communicate the depth to which this has impacted the company, and that you believe in it, and that it's tied, and you want to find the right way to tie it to the product. Tell us through, what are some of the lessons learned in integrating this into the brand and the brand message? And you were starting in doing this mainly in Venezuelan marketing.
Yeah, well, first I gotta say that you need to understand what is the right timing to do it, because I need the fundamentals needs to be in place in order to guarantee that you're ready to tell that message to the world. The other thing is that you need, as long as your narrative can be really compelling, you can have a really authentic story, but you need to find what is the right angle, because it's not an easy message to digest. So that's really important that you understand what is the right angle to tell that story. Another thing that I would say is that for us, the purpose is not more important than the product. So we need to guarantee that they are in balance, that they are attached to each other, and in our case, it's one story. And the other thing that I would say is that it's really tempting in this case to talk about the past of the gang members. I mean, these are people that has faced a lot of tragedy in their lives. So, I mean, you know that the pain sells, but in our case, that's not what we want. Our campaign celebrates the power of the transformation, celebrates that huge change that these guys are doing for their lives. And so I would say that for me, that's the main lesson. We need to build a happy narrative, a narrative that is based on the transformation, not on the past of the gang members.
So tell us, give us maybe a couple of examples of the kinds of messaging that you used. How did you use gang members? Were they used in testimonials at all? Mm-hmm. You obviously had to make a lot of creative decisions about how to integrate this into the branding messages. So give us a few examples of the key choices you made.
Yeah, for example, we have this group that is called the Life Shakers. The Life Shakers is a group of brand ambassadors that are ex-gang members. We have Ander Herrera, we have Wilco, we have Daniel Lopez. They are all, they come from gangs, and they are now the brand ambassadors. So for example, when they started to come to the US and tell their story, the narrative was really based on their past. I mean, what they've been through. For example, in the case of Wilco, he grew up without his father. So it was like a really, to be honest, depressing stories about them. And we started learning that the real power of these stories is not in the past, it's in the future. And seeing them coming to the US, I mean, they come from this little town in Venezuela with real high poverty levels, and seeing them in the US telling the story, that's the real power of the transformation. So we choose to launch our campaign, Great Rum, Greater Purpose, to celebrate the transformation, to celebrate the decision, to celebrate the second choices.
How do you organize this within the company? So that you're, how is this, as you start integrating the message more and more into the company, how did you make the mission really put it at the center of the company?
Yeah, well, actually, we as Santa Teresa is defined, I mean, our vision is to be a source of inspiration and a tool for transformation. 20 years ago, we realized that the growth of Santa Teresa in Venezuela and globally has to be with the community. And the Hacienda Santa Teresa, I would say that 60 or 70% of the people that work in the Hacienda comes from El Consejo, which is the town in which the Hacienda is located. So I would say that it's just one story. I mean, we cannot turn back to our community because it's one story. So I think that not the marketing team, not the production team, but the whole company is really invested on take our vision, that be a tool of transformation throughout all the world.
Now, let's start with the Venezuelan market, because I know that you're still in the process of penetrating the American market. But in Venezuela, this process over the last 20 years has had a very tangible and dramatic impact on sales, on brand recognition, on brand placement and market share in Venezuela. So talk us through the actual marketing impact that you've had in the country.
That's a good question. Back in 2013, when we launched the campaign, we were no leaders of the market. We were really far away from that #1 position. So it was a really risky bet because, I mean, we were not the leading brand, and we started talking about something that was really weird for the category. If you know the category, the rum category is about beaches, party. So we started talking about the rugby, and when we first started the communication, it was like an epic narrative. So it was kind of weird to have to make that decision at that time, but we've been consistent with our message. And now when you say rugby in Venezuela, it's the same to say Santa Teresa, and when you say Santa Teresa, it's the same that's saying rugby. And we are now the #1 leading brand in the market across all segments, from value to super premium, and that's why we decided that we wanted to go up there and conquer the world, hopefully.
It's fascinating, though, in that story, especially how rugby plays that bridge between brand and cause. And then that also becomes the thing that really cements that association between brand and cause with the audience. It's an interesting linkage that was made that was important. I want to show, this is a bit of a long video, but really tells the story very well.
Uno piensa que siempre va a ser lo mejor es que si vivir robando, matando gente, secuestrando, extorsionando, y en realidad lo que fácil viene, fácil se va, y eso lo que le trae son perturbaciones a uno y malos ratos, pues.
La idea es que estos jóvenes aprendan, reconozcan los valores que transmitimos a través de una herramienta que es el deporte, que es el rugby, que es el respeto, la responsabilidad, la disciplina, el trabajo en equipo, el espíritu deportivo, la humildad, y además si ellos recorren esos valores, pues ellos pueden reinsertarse a la sociedad de manera correcta.
De multiplicación. Cada persona que ustedes tocan, ustedes tienen la oportunidad y la responsabilidad de transformar vidas, y piensen simplemente en cómo va a ser la vida de sus hijos, cómo va a ser la vida de sus nietos, cómo van a ser las próximas oleadas.
So, I thought it was important to show that because we really need to see the people who this has impacted. The real challenge you have now, though, is as you bring the brand global, and especially in the US market, is how you take an issue that clearly would resonate in Venezuela because they're all experiencing it, and you could become a hero in that context. But as you take that story and you make that this sort of purpose-driven brand and bring it into the U.S., what are the key tactics? How are you thinking about how you translate this story to an audience for whom this is at best abstract?
Well, I think we all can relate to the second chances. I mean, no matter what life we're living, we all feel connected with that opportunity of doing the things differently. So for us, second chances, giving an opportunity to a person, giving them the opportunity to change their lives is the fundamental to have this narrative to be compelling outside Venezuela. And also, I gotta say, as I was mentioning before, to focus on the celebration of the transformation. We all feel really happy. Some of the guys you see on that video are the actual are the actual brand ambassadors of Santa Teresa. I'm sure you're gonna see a lot of them coming to the US talking about the brand, and I think that really makes me proud, and I'm sure that for everybody in this room to see the power of transformation of a person, it's something that we need to celebrate, and we need to cheer around with them.
Okay, but that's pretty smart, I think, that idea of using identification with something that literally is so outside most Americans' experience, to use sensitive identification to find that linkage. What are the key course corrections that you've made? What are the biggest mistakes along the way, and the biggest course corrections?
Yeah. Well, just to complement the answer, we're starting. The Alcatraz project is now on prisons. We are in 35 prisons in Venezuela, and we just started in a prison in Miami. So I think it's a good start to explore the methodology to other countries. We have one prison in the U.S. and one prison in Spain. So the program is starting to touch another geographies. And to answer your question, well, I think we all have the same problem in this room, and it's the limited resources. No, so. For us, it was like overwhelming to understand what it takes to build a brand in the U.S. So I would say that we need to be clear on what it takes to play in a market like this, to guarantee that we have all the resources, because I mean we have great assets, but to be honest, we don't have all the money to spread the message all over the country. So we need to focus, for example, just in Florida or California, to guarantee that we can reach a vast audience on those states. And the other thing is that we need to guarantee that when you, for example, you get into the social media, you have all the assets to really understand the story, because I mean, even for us, it's hard to understand being in the country, and I cannot imagine what it means for you to digest all those things. So we need to guarantee that when you get into the social media or website, you have like the whole story, and the brand is really represented in their values and what's behind it.
Let's open it up. Anybody have any questions of Marlin in this project?
On you, just to do at least the first. You're our plant, actually. This is Josh.
There you go. You guys are planting me. So first of all, incredibly inspirational campaign, and just huge kudos to you and your company for everything you're doing to make a difference. Have you guys thought about like how are you getting consumers involved in contributing to Project Alcatraz, or like have you thought about like when they're actually making a purchase of your product, is there a certain percentage that goes back, or how are you sort of connecting that flywheel with the consumer?
Yeah, well, actually, the project is funded with the Santa Teresa Rum sales. One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that the project is sustainable. So one of the things that we do is a part of the sales goes directly to the project. So and that's being communicated in Venezuela. At first, as I mentioned, it was like hard because we don't want people to think that we were doing that. We were doing that because we wanted to sell more. But it was in 2013 that we decided that, okay, it's time to start saying that because the project needs to guarantee that it's sustainable. I mean, we don't have a volunteer program. It's just for a few events. People can join and participate. We're doing it especially for high school students that wants to be part of the events. We have some fundraising events back in Venezuela, so we invited volunteers to go there, but we don't have an established program. I think that would be a really good next step because people feel really sensible when they find out that they can do more than just buy a bottle of rum.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
That was Josh from Burns Entertainment, by the way, just making sure. Another one right here.
Matt Liebman with GSTV. Agree with Josh, an incredibly inspirational and moving story. It's amazing the work you guys are doing. I know that you mentioned your project Alcatraz is expanding to Miami and Spain. Is the goal to kind of continue to expand in all of the markets that you're going to enter and try and impact as well? And then how do you balance staying true to your town and impact first and foremost in Venezuela with expansion?
Yeah, we don't want to grow the project as much as we want to grow our sales. We wanna. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. Once one of these guys get into the program, it's like a marriage. Some of the guys that went, actually the guy that attacked the Hacienda 20 years ago is still part of the company. So the commitment is huge, and we want to make sure, for example, opening the prison in the US or opening the prison in Spain. We also receive an offer to do it in Italy, which is also an important market, but it needs to be a really responsible expansion because of the commitment that this project has with all the members. So we're doing it slowly. We're aiming to boost our sales more faster so we can fund that. But yes, it's a balance between doing things right, but also guarantee that the project expands also its geographical reach. Thank you.
One more back here, Steve.
Yep.
That's an active table.
You gonna whisper? She's gonna do it. No whisper. No whisper.
Hi, Lauren from Chef Merito. As a fellow Latina, this definitely hits home for me. So hearing you speak about this foundation was truly incredible. I can only imagine that in Florida and Los Angeles that this is resonating with the audiences that you're particularly targeting. However, communicating it to a broader audience, are you trying to reach that? And what does that communication look like, if you are?
Yeah, well, actually, we are on a really early stage of the campaign. We just launched the campaign back in December 2023. So, I mean, we are still learning what does this mean. Before the launch, we did some tests in different states to guarantee that we were saying the right thing. But for now, we're focused on a community that can relate, that can understand the message. I'm sure that in the future we will need to maybe, without losing our authenticity, refine the message to guarantee that we're targeting the right people with the right communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marlin, thank you so much. Thanks for making the trip. I appreciate it. Say hi to Alberto. I know we went through 3 different people who we had to go through before we could get somebody we could make the trip up, and I really appreciate it. Thanks you so much.
Thank you.